It's here again. Honesty, I'm going mad. I must be. I'm sorry, friend.
Greetings, creators. I'm Holistic Dungeon Master, and today I got a treat for you. A fully voice-acted encounter prompt to spark your creativity for your next session. You can chop, change, steal this, or you don't have to do any of that and you can just let it entertain you. If you like my content and would like to support the channel, you can like the video, crit the subscribe and notification bell. We also have a Patreon now, so check that out down in the description below if you wish to support what I do here. And without further ado, let's jump right into The Charmed Stray. The last of the hit squad lands face first in the patina of filth, coating the cobbles with a crunch. The blood from the gash in his throat slowly begins to make a grisly batter with the grey, foul-smelling slime. And Aster, a nimble and weary-eyed halfling, wipes the blood off his dagger using the thug's own tattered, reeking cloak.
Bloody hells. If it wasn't for that cat.
Huh? Grunts Honesty, a midnight blue-skinned tiefling with golden irises, who had just pulled himself from under the bulky form of another heavy. It was more luck than anything that she skidded in the slime, falling on Honesty and his fortuitously positioned rapier.
Nothing. Come on, we'd better go. More will be on us soon. Is there no end to them? We must have killed a dozen already. You know Sylvia. She's got every goon in Gullet on our payroll.
Ah, Gullet. My favorite slum, you know.
A real treat for the senses, especially the nose. The locals are so friendly too. And Sylvia owns it all. She'll be wanting this back too.
Aster quickly grabs the strange bone amulet carved with harsh and ancient-looking runes that fell into the alley's stagnant gutter during the fight. But as he does so, he catches a glimpse of two predatory eyes flashing in the gloom and jumps back in a practiced movement with daggers drawn. A jet-black cat with shining dark amber eyes slinks out of the gloom with its tail in the air, the tip of it crooked.
Oh, it's you. Here, I'd better thank you before we go.
Aster kneels, taking one of the strips of salted pork he had prepared for their escape, and begins to tear it into bite-sized pieces.
What are you doing? You just said we didn't have the time. I know, but if it wasn't for this wee and hissing at just the right moment, it'd be me lying with me face in the filth and my neck torn open. You should have seen the look on that coon's face though. Absolutely terrified. Must have been a fear of the felines or something.
The black, silky cat graciously gobbles the remaining morsels, rubs against Aster's calf with a loud purr for a moment, before silently leaping up to one of the alley's rusted, dripping gutters, where it licks its furry chops and regards them with a wide-eyed stare. Honesty is already out of the alley, scanning the crowd for any more of Silva's goons with a keen eye. Aster quickly slips the amulet around his neck for safekeeping, instead of his hidden leather pouch like before, thinking it's less likely to get lost during the fight. But the moment he does, a harsh and otherworldly sound fills the alleyway. To Aster it seems like a distant wind, amplified and heard as if it was shrieking right behind his ears. But he feels no breeze on his clothes or skin. As he turns around, he sees no debris being whipped or driven by any gale. His guts go cold, as if a dagger of purest malevolent ice has been plunged deep. The reason is simple. Behind the clamor, he could swear he hears something more. Syllables being muttered that no humanoid could utter with fleshy lips. And then, just as he thinks he's beginning to catch full words in an unknown language, it stops. The inrush of near silence in the cloistered alleyway is almost as deafening in the absence of those dreadful susurrations. Aster doesn't know exactly when he fell on his arse, when the cat disappeared from the rusty gutters, but finding himself now alone in the alley, he utters a wordless cry of panic and scrapes himself from the tainted cobbles and rushes after the tiefling.
Honesty! Honesty!
He hisses when reunited with his fellow thief.
Gods above and devils below, where have you been? Having a nice little rest while Honesty sticks his neck out? Well, not to worry. I've already done all the hard work, as usual. The coast is clear now. We just need to...
Hey, what's the matter?
You look shook. Did they find us again already? No one's following us, but didn't you hear it? Hear what? That voice! Voices! That rushing of wind and something terrible mumbling beneath it all. Why are you looking at me like that?
I think maybe you took a cudgel to the back of the head during that scuffle.
First you waste time on that mangy mouser, and now some spectral breeze.
Look, we can talk about this later. We have to go now before any more goon squads come through here.
You're right. As usual. naturally. Now, wipe that wide-eyed stare off your face. You look like a tourist, and tourists don't survive long in Gullet.
The rain begins to fall in sheets of thick, frigid droplets, and the next 2 hours were less than pleasant for Aster and Honesty. They spent the first trying to sneak and bribe their way through the filthy sewer passages and dangerous, slippy rooftop gangways that are frequented by the professional ne'er-do-wells of Gullet. The second they spent in a game of cat and mouse with more of Sylvia's hirelings that ended in another short, brutal, and bloody knife fight. Curious things involving a particular jet black cat kept happening to the thieves during their flight, however, and each time it seemed to aid them in reaching their goal. When they got lost in the sewers that were quickly filling up with rainwater, they heard an insistent mewing coming from the drains above, which led them to an open manhole. When they were about to run across a rotten-looking rooftop gangway, the black cat leapt onto it before them. The sodden wood crumbled beneath the weight of their new ally, and the planks fell 3 stories, landing with a crash on the hard stone of the street below. After the cat had gracefully sprung to the opposite roof, of course. They were forced to find a safer route. And yet again, the feline had gotten itself involved in their fight. A burly and fierce-looking half-orc who had Honesty by the throat was about to introduce their dented, cruel-looking longsword to the tiefling's innards, but was instead treated to a black whirlwind of hissing and claws, directed at their throat and eyes. Needless to say, this was distraction enough for Honesty to put an end to the fight. Now, bleeding, bruised, tattered, and thoroughly exhausted, they find themselves huddled under the awning of an empty merchant's stall in the dockyard.
Hey, there's the boat. I told you to be here. The captain owes me a favor, a big one. Oh, really? And suppose he turns us in rather than repay this big favor? You worry too much. And besides, it's really your only option. Fortune favors the bold and all that. You, still hearing that noise? Aye, and it's the damnedest thing though. It only happens when you're not bloody around to hear it. Are you sure you're not playing another one of your louse-brained pranks? I've told you already, it's not me. Why are you still accusing me? We have got to trust one another. We're in this together, Aster, till we escape and sell that blasted amulet or until they catch us and we meet the same gruesome end together. I'd be much more done with your constant accusations of malfeasance, but don't worry, I'm a tiefling. I'm used to it. I just expected better from you, of all people.
A long and cold silence draws out between them as the almost deserted dockyard is lashed and whipped by the heavy rain.
You're right. Right again. As usual. I'm sorry. Okay, it's just this bloody hallucination or whatever it is torments me. And this cursed amulet seems like ice on my skin. I can only just bear it. But you're right. We need to trust each other, or we'll both end up gutted. Why are you always bloody right?
Aster stops dead mid-sentence as a dozen dour-faced and utterly saturated individuals enter the dockyard with weapons drawn.
We know you're here, lads. I'd say come on out and make it easier for yourselves, but it don't matter which way this goes. It'll be anything but bloody easy for you. Spread out and find the curs.
Just as they begin to search the yard, yet again the windless rush begins to assault Aster's ears, his guts, his mind. Each time he heard the dread wind, the syllables grew more distinct and structured, yet still in a language he did not understand, and now the rushing din is merely a backdrop to a guttural and harsh voice.
It's here again. Honesty, I'm going mad. I must be. I'm sorry, friend. You need to get on that boat now. I'll only...
No, Aster. I can hear it too, now. Aster ceases madly clutching his head in a vain attempt to fend off the voice, to glance at Honesty, who is staring dumbstruck at a particular, jet-black, silky-furred cat who is perched on the edge of the merchant's stall, its fur as dry as if it was stretched out by a hearth fire the entire afternoon. The cat's amber eyes regard them carelessly as it opens its mouth, the terrible, vile, unctuous, guttural voice issuing forth. A voice Honesty understands completely. A voice that speaks in a tongue Honesty didn't think he'd ever hear again.
Finally. The other one clearly hasn't the capacity to understand. You're in a bit of a tight spot, are you not? I can lend you my aid. For a price. A steep one. Understand, Devil's Brood?
Oh yes, Honesty understands fully. Understands what's not being said. The cost of aid must be paid in blood. He understands this partially because of the cult he was reared by, but mostly because of the tongue the cat speaks in. Infernal. I hope that after watching this, you are inspired and that your DM brains are fizzling and sizzling. I've left a bunch of stuff open-ended for you to fill in the blanks. What was that amulet? Who is this mysterious and seemingly all-powerful Sylvia? And what does that cat want from Honesty? And will Honesty pay this price for aid? And if so, how? Please type all of your wonderful ideas for this that you have down in the comments and share it with us. I would just love to see what you guys do with this. If you enjoy these encounter prompts, this kind of content, then please let me know. And if you'd like to support more of these endeavors, then please subscribe to my Patreon. You'll find it down in the description below. Also down in the description, you'll find a link to our community Discord server. So jump on in there. There'll be DMs talking about the craft and helping each other hone their skills. And also there's a bunch of other players in there. So it's just for people who like to talk about D&D and hang out and discuss characters and the game. Another thing you'll find down in that wonderful description box is a free PDF of system-neutral archetypal NPCs that you can drop into any game. If you've watched this video all the way to the end, then you are the people I make this content for. People who are really passionate about this hobby and just stories in general, and fantasy, of course. So, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. And remember, this world needs good DMs.